The hull breach alarm screamed through the corridor, and Sergeant Cole Brannigan was already running. His boots hammered the steel grating of the frigate Ironfall as sparks rained from a blown conduit overhead. 3 seconds ago, he had been eating cold rations in the mess. Now the ship was bleeding atmosphere. He slammed his palm on the emergency panel, and his combat armor locked around him in sequential plates, chest first, then arms, legs, helmet. The visor sealed with a hiss, and the heads-up display flooded with red warnings. Hull integrity at 41%. Enemy contacts, 6. Boarding pods attached to the starboard flank. Cole grabbed his rifle from the wall mount and moved. The Ironfall was a patrol vessel. Small crew, light guns, assigned to the dead zone between human space and the Valori Dominion. 37 people on board. Most of them were technicians and navigators. Cole was one of 4 combat-rated soldiers, and the only one who had seen real action before this tour. He rounded the corner and found the first breach point. The corridor wall had been peeled open like wet paper, and through the jagged hole came 2 Valori soldiers in their bone-white exosuits. Tall, broad, 4 arms each, the upper pair carrying pulse lances, the lower pair folded tight against their torsos. Cole fired before they finished stepping through. His rifle punched tungsten rounds at 1,200 meters per second, and the first Valori folded backward, its chest plate cracked open. The second one raised its lance. Cole dropped flat. The pulse beam scorched the air where his head had been half a breath ago. He rolled, fired from the floor, 3 rounds into the knee joint where the exosuit was thinnest. The Valori buckled. Cole put 2 more rounds through its visor. He got up, kept moving. The comms channel was a mess of overlapping voices. Lieutenant Dawson calling for positions. Petty Officer Huang screaming about a fire in engineering. Someone whose name Cole could not place saying please over and over in a voice that had gone past fear to something quieter. Cole muted everything except the command channel. Through the next 2 sections, he killed 4 more Valori. He did not think about it in those terms while it was happening. His body was a sequence of positions and trigger pulls and angles of cover. A machine that had been built in training and refined in 3 previous engagements that the military preferred to classify as border incidents rather than wars. He reached the bridge. The door was sealed from inside. He banged on it with his armored fist. Lieutenant Dawson opened it. She was bleeding from a cut above her eye and holding a sidearm that looked too big for her hand. "How many?" she said. Cole held up 6 fingers. "There are more coming." Dawson pulled him inside. The bridge was dim, running on emergency power. The navigation officer was slumped in his chair, unconscious or worse. 2 other crew members crouched behind a console, their faces gray. Dawson brought up the tactical display. A Valori cruiser sat 3,000 kilometers off the port bow. It dwarfed the Ironfall the way a cathedral dwarfs a tool shed. And between them, more boarding pods were launching. "We cannot win this fight," Dawson said. Cole looked at the display. She was right. The Ironfall had 2 functioning point defense turrets and a main gun that could not track fast enough to hit the pods. The cruiser had not even bothered firing its main weapons. This was a capture operation, not a destruction. "They want the ship," Cole said. "They want what is in the cargo hold," Dawson corrected. Cole had not been briefed on the cargo. He looked at her and waited. Dawson closed her eyes for 1 second. It was a diplomatic package, sealed, direct from Central Command to the Valori home system. We were the courier. A diplomatic package on a patrol frigate with no escort. Cole let that settle in his chest like a swallowed stone. "What is in it?" he said. "I do not know." But if the Valori are attacking their own diplomatic delivery, then whatever is in that package is something their military does not want their government to receive. That changed things. And this was not a random raid. This was a faction within the Valori Dominion trying to intercept a message meant for their own leadership. More boarding pods hit the hull. The Ironfall shuddered. Cole checked his ammunition. 2 magazines left, 60 rounds. "I need to get to the cargo hold," he said. Dawson stared at him. "That is 4 sections aft through a ship that is being overrun." Cole was already moving toward the door. He stopped and looked back at her. "Seal the bridge. Do not open it for anyone. If I am not back in 20 minutes, vent the cargo hold to space." Dawson did not argue. She had served with Cole long enough to understand that arguing with him in this mode was like arguing with gravity. You could have opinions about it. It would not change the outcome. Cole stepped into the corridor. The emergency lights cast everything in a dull red wash that made the smoke look like something alive and crawling along the ceiling. He moved fast, rifle up, and checking corners with a mechanical precision that had kept him breathing through engagements that had killed better soldiers. Section by section. 2 more Valori in the crew quarters, searching the rooms. Cole killed them both before they registered his presence. 1 more in the medical bay, dragging an unconscious crew member by the ankle. Cole shot it through the back of the head and did not stop to check if the crew member was alive. He reached the cargo hold, and the door was locked with a biometric seal. Cole pulled off his glove, pressed his bare thumb to the scanner. It beeped red, access denied. His clearance was not high enough. He put his glove back on, looked at the door. 12 inches of reinforced steel with a molecular bonding layer. His rifle would not scratch it. The ship rocked again. Another pod. The sounds of pulse fire echoed from somewhere above him, which meant the Valori were in the upper decks now, working their way down. Cole opened a maintenance panel beside the door. He was not an engineer, but he had spent enough time watching engineers work to understand the basic architecture of shipboard systems. The biometric lock drew power from a dedicated line. If he cut that line, the lock would default to its fail-safe state. He found the cable, cut it with his combat knife. The lock defaulted. It opened. The cargo hold was a small room, barely larger than a closet. In the center, on a magnetic clamp, he sat a silver case the size of a shoebox. It was unmarked except for a single symbol etched into the lid. Cole recognized the symbol. It was the royal seal of the Valori Empress. He grabbed the case. It was lighter than he expected. He mag-locked it to the back plate of his armor, where it would be protected by the same plating that protected his spine. Now he had to get off the ship. He opened the comm channel. "Dawson, I have the package. The ship is lost. What is the evacuation status?" Dawson's voice came through tight and controlled. "Escape pods 1 through 4 are launched. Pods 5 and 6 are damaged. I have 9 crew still aboard, including you and me." Cole was already running. The pod bay was 2 sections forward. He passed through the engine room, where something was burning with a chemical smell that his suit filters could not fully scrub, and into the central spine corridor, where he nearly ran into 3 Valori coming the other direction. No time for precision. Cole fired on full automatic, burning through half a magazine in a 3-second burst that filled the corridor with tungsten and noise. 2 Valori dropped. The third stumbled, hit in the shoulder, and Cole closed the distance and drove his armored fist into its visor. The visor cracked. He hit it again. The Valori went down. He kept running. The pod bay was ahead. He could see Dawson and 4 crew members at the entrance. Dawson was waving them in. Cole reached them. "Go," he said. Then he turned and faced the corridor behind them, rifle up, covering their retreat into the pod. Dawson grabbed his arm. "Get in. Is everyone accounted for? The ones who are still alive?" Cole stepped backward into the pod without lowering his rifle. Dawson sealed the hatch. The pod launched with a kick that pressed them all into their seats, and then they were falling away from the ironfall, watching through the small viewport as the Valori cruiser swallowed the frigate in a tractor beam like a whale inhaling a minnow. Nobody spoke. Cole sat in his armor with the silver case pressed against his back, and the royal seal of an alien empress burning a hole through his awareness. The pod drifted into the dark between stars. The escape pod had enough air for 72 hours and enough power for 48. And they were drifting in a region of space where human patrols came through once every 6 days. The math was not kind. Cole sat in the far corner of the pod, his armor still sealed, his rifle across his knees. The helmet stayed on. It always stayed on when others were around. That was his rule, and it had been his rule for 4 years, ever since the incident on Vegas Station that left him with a face that made people flinch. Not scars. Something worse than scars. Dawson sat across from him, her cut cleaned and sealed with a med strip. The other 4 survivors were a navigation technician named Paul Weiss, a comms officer named Rita Salazar, a young engineer named Danny Cho, who could not have been more than 22, and the ship's cook, a large, quiet woman named Bev Hartley, who had not said a single word since the attack. Dawson broke the silence. "Sergeant Brannigan, the package." Cole reached behind him and detached the silver case from his back plate. He set it on the floor between them. The Valori royal seal caught the dim pod light and threw it back in fractured patterns. "Do we open it?" Paul said. "It is sealed diplomatic cargo," Dawson said. "We do not have authorization. The ship that was supposed to deliver it is currently inside a Valori cruiser," Cole said. Authorization is a flexible concept at this point. Dawson looked at the case for a long time. Then she reached forward and pressed the latch. It opened. Inside, and nested in a cushion of smart foam, was a data crystal. Standard Valori format, about the size of a human thumb, glowing with a faint internal light that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Beside it was a folded document made of something that was not paper, but behaved like paper. Dense script covered it in both standard English and Valori formal notation. Rita leaned forward. "That is a dual-language treaty document. I have seen the format in diplomatic training." Mulder Cole picked up the document and unfolded it. His visor translated the Valori text in real time, overlaying English above each line. He read it twice. Then he read it a third time because the words did not assemble into anything that made sense in the universe he had been living in for the past 30 years. "This is a marriage contract," he said. Dawson took the document from him. Her eyes moved across it, and her face went through several changes that ended somewhere between confusion and fury. A marriage contract between a human military representative and the Valori Crown Princess Ashavari. Ratified by Central Command. Approved by the Valori Empress. The human representative is not named. The document says the identity will be confirmed upon delivery and formal presentation at the Valori court. Danny looked from face to face. "They are marrying off one of us to an alien princess." "Not one of us," Dawson said. She looked at Cole. "The document specifies a combat-decorated soldier currently serving in the border zone. Someone whose identity has been deliberately obscured." The pod went quiet. Cole said nothing. Behind his visor, his jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. Dawson continued. The Ironfall was chosen as the courier specifically because it was small and inconspicuous. The Valori faction that attacked us did not want this marriage to happen. It would unite the moderate Valori government with human military interests and cut the Warhawks out of power permanently. So the package is the most important diplomatic object in the sector, Cole said, and they put it on a patrol frigate with 4 soldiers. Dawson's expression said she had the same opinion of that decision. Rita was working the pod's communication array. She looked up. A mic can boost our distress signal, but it will take time to reach anyone. If the Valori cruiser is still in the area, they will hear it too. Do it, Dawson said. We do not have a choice. Cole picked up the data crystal and turned it in his armored fingers. The light inside it pulsed against his glove. The marriage contract did not name the human representative. But Cole was the only combat-decorated soldier on the Ironfall. He was the only one who matched the criteria. Iron Central Command had assigned him to this ship 3 months ago with no explanation, pulling him off a frontline posting where he had been effective and content. He had thought it was a punishment, a demotion disguised as a lateral transfer. It was a setup. They had been grooming him for this without telling him. Every psych evaluation, every cultural sensitivity briefing he had been forced to attend, every Valori language module that appeared in his training queue that he had assumed was a bureaucratic error. He put the crystal back in the case and closed the lid. Dawson watched him. You understand what this means? I understand that I was not consulted, Cole said. His voice through the helmet speaker was flat as sheet metal. If we survive this, you will be presented to the Valori court. To the princess. I will be presented to nobody. I am a soldier, not a bargaining chip. Dawson leaned forward. Brannigan. This marriage could end a conflict that has killed 11,000 people in the last decade. It could reshape the entire border dynamic. Cole stood up. His armor scraped the pod ceiling. In the tight space, he looked like something carved from gunmetal and bad decisions. I did not enlist to be someone's husband. I enlisted because the alternative was worse. He sat back down. The conversation was over in a way that everyone in the pod understood without needing it explained. Hours passed. Danny and Paul slept in shifts. Bev Hartley stared at the viewport with an expression that suggested she was having a very long conversation with herself. Rita monitored the comms and reported nothing. Cole did not sleep. He sat with the case at his feet and thought about the face beneath his helmet that he had not shown anyone in 4 years. The Vega Station incident had not been combat. It had been an experiment, a military bioengineering program that was supposed to enhance human soldiers for prolonged operations in alien environments. Cole had volunteered because they offered triple pay, and he had a sister back on Earth with medical bills that could choke a government accountant. The enhancement worked. His reflexes were faster. His endurance was inhuman. His bones were reinforced with a ceramic-metal hybrid that made them nearly unbreakable. But the process changed his appearance in ways that no one had predicted. His skin carried a faint luminescence. His eyes reflected light like an animal's. The structure of his face had shifted, become something that was recognizably human, but also recognizably not. He looked, in a word, alien. The military had buried the program, classified everything, given Cole his armor and his helmet, and a standing order to never remove them in the presence of others. He had become their ghost soldier, their deniable asset. The man they sent into situations where his enhanced capabilities were needed and his face was not. And now they wanted to send that face into a royal court. 12 hours into the drift, the comms array picked up a signal. Rita sat up straight. It is not human. Valori frequency. But it is not the cruiser. Different signature. No, Cole was on his feet. What kind of ship? Rita worked the console for a long 30 seconds. Her face went through surprise and settled on something close to awe. It is a Valori Royal yacht, Empress class, one of 3 that exist. The pod went silent again. Dawson moved to the viewport. A shape was emerging from the dark, sleek and enormous, its hull covered in patterns that glowed with the same faint bioluminescence that ran beneath Cole's skin. It was the most beautiful ship he had ever seen, and it moved through space with the casual authority of something that had never been afraid of anything. "They are hailing us," Rita said. "Put it through." The voice that filled the pod was female, speaking accented but precise English. "Human vessel. This is the royal ship Aetheris, carrying Her Highness Crown Princess Ashavari of the Valori Dominion. We have detected your distress signal. State your identity and purpose." Dawson looked at Cole. Cole looked at the case at his feet. "This is Lieutenant Dawson of the human frigate Ironfall," Dawson said. "We were attacked and boarded. We are carrying diplomatic cargo intended for the Valori court." The silence on the other end lasted exactly 4 seconds. "The diplomatic package. You have it." "We have it," Dawson confirmed. Another pause, then the voice returned, and there was something in it now, a tension that had not been there before. "Prepare for docking. Her Highness will receive you personally." The comm went dead. Cole looked at Dawson. Dawson looked at Cole. "You might want to rehearse a greeting," she said. Cole picked up the case and said nothing at all. The docking procedure was smooth enough to feel ceremonial. The royal yacht extended a pressurized tube that connected to the escape pod's emergency hatch with a precision that human engineering could not have matched. The seal was perfect. No vibration, no sound. The hatch opened and warmth flooded in, carrying a scent that Cole's enhanced senses broke down into components without his permission. Mineral-rich air. Something floral that had no earth equivalent. A faint electrical charge like the space before a thunderstorm. 2 Valori guards stood on the other side. They were tall, taller than the soldiers on the Ironfall, and their armor was not the bone white of military exosuits, but a deep, iridescent blue that shifted color when they moved, and their upper arms held ceremonial staves. Their lower arms were folded in what Cole's cultural training modules told him was a posture of formal welcome. He stepped through first, Dawson behind him, then Rita, Paul, Danny, and Bev, who still had not spoken. The interior of the yacht was nothing like any ship Cole had served on. The corridors were wide and curved, the walls covered in living material that pulsed with soft light. The floor gave slightly under his boots, not soft exactly, but responsive, like walking on something that was aware of his weight and adjusting itself. The guards led them through 3 sections of the ship without speaking. Crew members paused in doorways to watch them pass. Cole felt their eyes on his armor, on his sealed helmet, on the silver case mag-locked to his back. They reached a set of doors that were twice the height of any door Cole had ever walked through. The guards stopped. On one of them spoke in Valori, and Cole's visor translated. "Her Highness receives you in the Amber Hall. Weapons must be surrendered." Cole looked at Dawson. Dawson nodded. He unclipped his rifle and handed it to the guard. His sidearm followed, his combat knife. The guard took each one with the careful grip of someone handling objects that were beneath them, but deserved respect because they belonged to a guest. The doors opened. The Amber Hall was exactly what it sounded like. A vast room with walls of translucent, amber-colored material that glowed from within. The ceiling was high enough that the light up there became hazy, atmospheric, like looking at a sunset through fog. The floor was polished to a mirror finish and reflected everything above it so perfectly that walking into the room felt like stepping into a space that extended infinitely in both directions. At the far end, on a raised platform that was more stage than throne, stood 3 figures, and the 2 were advisors. Cole could tell by their robes, the gray formal wrappings that denoted court officials. They stood with all 4 arms visible, a display of openness that his training said meant they were unarmed and operating in diplomatic mode. The 3rd figure was the princess. Crown Princess HFY was not what Cole had expected, and he realized that was because he had not allowed himself to form an expectation. He had refused to look her up in the database. He had refused to think about what she might be. She was tall, nearly his height, and the proportions of her body were close enough to human to register as familiar, but different enough to make the familiarity unsettling. Her skin was a deep bronze that carried the same bioluminescent undertone that Cole saw in his own mirror on the rare occasions he looked. Her 4 arms were uncovered, the upper pair folded across her chest, the lower pair resting at her sides. Her face was angular, not with high cheekbones and large dark eyes that caught the amber light and held it. She wore no crown, no jewelry, just a simple garment of deep green that moved when she moved and was still when she was still. She watched them approach with an expression that gave nothing away. Dawson stopped at a respectful distance and bowed in the Valori fashion, bending forward with both hands pressed to her sternum. Cole stopped beside her and did nothing because the manual did not cover what a man in full combat armor carrying a marriage contract should do when meeting his alleged future bride. "Lieutenant Dawson," the princess said. Her English was better than the voice on the comm, clearer, each word chosen with the care of someone who understood language as a weapon and a gift. "You carry the diplomatic package." "We do, Your Highness," Dawson said. "You were attacked by a Valori cruiser, military faction." The princess's upper right hand tightened against her arm, the only sign that this news affected her. "I am aware of the faction. They have been working against this arrangement for some time." She paused. "The package, please." Cole stepped forward. He detached the silver case from his back plate and held it out. The princess's lower left hand reached for it, and their fingers did not touch, the case passing between them with a gap of air that felt deliberate on both sides. She opened the case, looked at the document, looked at the data crystal. Her face remained composed, but her lower arms both pressed against her sides in what Cole's training said was a stress response. She closed the case. "The contract specifies a combat-decorated human soldier," she said. She looked at Cole, at his helmet, at the sealed visor that reflected her own face back at her. "You are the one." It was not a question. "That is what I have been told," Cole said. "Approximately 12 hours ago. You did not know. I did not know." The princess studied him for a long moment. The advisors beside her exchanged a glance. "You will remove your helmet," she said. The room changed temperature, not literally, but something in the quality of the air shifted, and Cole felt Dawson tense beside him. "I would prefer not to," he said. "This is a formal reception. The Valori court requires that faces be visible during diplomatic proceedings. It is a matter of trust, of showing what you are." Cole stood very still. The silver case sat in the princess's lower hands, and the amber light made everything look like it was happening inside a jar of honey. "Your Highness, there are reasons my helmet stays on. I did not ask for reasons. I asked you to remove it." Dawson touched Cole's arm, one finger tap against his gauntlet, the signal they had used on missions that meant your call. Cole reached up and unsealed the helmet clasps. The hiss of the pressure release was the loudest sound in the room. He lifted the helmet off his head. The amber light hit his face, and he watched the reaction spread through the room. The advisors stepped back. One of them made a sound that his visor would have translated as an oath. Dawson, who had never seen his face, drew a short breath. The princess did not move. Cole's face caught the amber light and threw it back from skin that held its own glow, faint and silver blue, running beneath the surface in patterns that mapped his veins. His eyes reflected the room like polished metal. The bone structure was human, but sharpened, refined, as if someone had taken a human face and edited it towards something else. Something that looked, in the warm alien light of this alien ship, less like a man and more like something that had been built to walk between species. He looked, in this room, like he belonged here. The princess set the case down on the platform beside her. She descended the 3 steps from the stage and walked toward him until she was close enough that he could see the bioluminescence in her own skin, pulsing in a rhythm that almost matched his. She raised her upper right hand and held it beside his face without touching. "What did they do to you?" she said. It was not horror in her voice, it was recognition. Cole said nothing. His hands hung at his sides, and his helmet dangled from his left fist, and for the first time in 4 years, his face was bare, and someone was looking at it without flinching. The princess lowered her hand. "The humans modified you," she said, "to survive in our environments, our atmosphere, our gravity, our radiation spectrum." "Yes." "And then they hid you." "Yes." She turned to Dawson. "Did you know what he was?" "No, Your Highness." The princess looked back at Cole. Her expression had not changed from the careful neutrality she wore like her own armor. But something in her eyes was different now. Something that his enhanced perception identified as the early architecture of fury. "They sent me a man they had already made half Valori," she said. "And they did not tell either of us." The advisors murmured. The princess raised her lower left hand, and they went quiet. "What is your name?" she said. "Cole Brannigan." "Cole Brannigan. Well, you were not consulted about this marriage." "No. And you do not want it." Cole looked at her. In the amber light, her skin glowed, and his skin glowed, and they stood there like 2 lanterns in a cathedral. "I do not know what I want," he said. "I have not been allowed to want things for a while." The princess held his gaze for 3 full seconds. And then she turned and walked back to the platform and picked up the silver case and faced her advisors and said something in rapid Valori that Cole's enhanced hearing caught perfectly. She said, "Prepare the guest quarters. The human stays." The guest quarters on the royal yacht were larger than Cole's entire berth on the Ironfall. The walls breathed with that same bioluminescent pulse, and the bed, if it could be called a bed, was a raised platform of the responsive floor material that shaped itself around him when he sat on it, like a hand learning the weight of what it held. He did not remove his armor. Old habits. But the helmet sat on a shelf across the room, face up, empty, looking back at him like an accusation. Dawson came to see him an hour after the reception. She stood in the doorway. "You should have told me," she said. "I was under orders not to." Dawson looked at the helmet on the shelf. What exactly did they do?" "Project Fenris, bioengineering program. They rewrote my cellular structure to tolerate Valori environmental conditions, atmosphere, gravity, radiation. The cosmetic changes were listed as side effects. Side effects, that is the word they used." Dawson leaned against the doorframe. Her expression was the one she wore when she was calculating something and did not like the result. Cole, the marriage contract, the modifications, your reassignment to the Ironfall. This has been in motion for years. Cole looked at his hands. Without the gloves, they glowed faintly in the dim room, the luminescence tracing the paths of his veins in thin silver lines. Probably. And the Valori War faction attacked because they figured it out before we did. That is my assessment. Dawson shook her head. I will be filing a report that will require its own classification level. She left. Cole sat in the breathing room and looked at his hands and thought about the princess standing close enough to touch, her skin pulsing in a rhythm that almost matched his. And the way she had said, "What did they do to you?" as if she already knew the answer and was asking a different question entirely. The next morning, as measured by the ship's artificial day cycle, a Valori attendant arrived and informed Cole that the princess had requested his presence for a meal. Cole put on his helmet, and then he took it off. Then he put it on again. He left it on the shelf. The dining chamber was a small room compared to the amber hall, intimate in a way that felt intentional. A table set for two. Food arranged in geometric patterns on plates that looked grown rather than manufactured. The princess was already seated, her upper arms resting on the table, her lower arms in her lap. She watched him enter without the helmet. Cole sat across from her. The food smelled like nothing he could name, but his modified biology responded to it. His mouth watering, his stomach contracting, as if his body recognized something his mind did not. You are staring at the food like it insulted your family, the princess said. I do not know what any of it is. Begin with the blue. It is mild. Cole picked up what he assumed was a utensil and tried the blue item. Oh, it tasted like roasted almonds crossed with honey, crossed with something electric that danced on the back of his tongue. His eyes widened. The princess watched his reaction. Your modifications included digestive adaptation. Apparently. They ate in a silence that was not uncomfortable. Cole worked his way through the geometric patterns, and each item was a small revelation. The princess ate slowly, for watching him with an analytical focus that he recognized because it was the same way he watched a room for threats. You have questions, she said. About 40. I will answer 3. Choose carefully. Cole set down his utensil. Why did your government agree to a marriage alliance with humans? You are the dominant military power. You do not need us. The princess's lower arms pressed together under the table. The stress response again. We are the dominant military power in this sector. As she said, we are not the only power in the galaxy. There are older civilizations watching us. Some of them have decided that the Valori and humans fighting each other is convenient. A marriage alliance signals unity. It makes us a less attractive target. Cole absorbed that. Something bigger than both of us. Yes. Second question. The faction that attacked the Ironfall. How dangerous are they? Dangerous enough to attack a diplomatic courier in neutral space. Dangerous enough to have infiltrated our military command structure. They believe humans are inferior and that alliance with you contaminates our bloodline. They are wrong, but they are well-funded and they are patient. The princess picked up her own utensil and examined it as if it contained the answer to a question she had not been asked. Third question, she said. Cole looked at her across the table. The bioluminescence in her skin was brighter now than it had been in the amber hall, on a warm bronze pulse that moved in waves from her shoulders to her fingertips. His own skin was doing the same thing. He could feel it, the glow responding to proximity, to the presence of compatible biology. "What do you actually think of this arrangement?" he said. The princess set down her utensil. "I think," she said, "that I was prepared to meet a human politician, someone smooth and diplomatic and empty behind the eyes, someone I could manage. And instead they sent me a soldier who glows in the dark and has not smiled once since arriving on my ship. Is that better or worse?" She met his eyes and held them. "I have not decided yet." They finished the meal. Cole stood to leave. At the door he stopped. "I have a fourth question," he said. "I said 3, I know." He waited. The princess tilted her head, a gesture that his training told him indicated amusement in Valori body language. "Ask it. What happens when your war faction finds out I am already on your ship?" The amusement left her posture. "They will come for us," she said. "They will bring everything they have." Cole nodded. He had expected that answer. "Then I should probably get my rifle back," he said. Now he walked out of the dining chamber and into the corridor, and the bioluminescent walls pulsed around him in a rhythm that matched the glow under his skin. And for one disorienting moment, he could not tell where the ship ended and he began. The attack came 14 hours later. Cole was in the armory the princess had opened for him, familiarizing himself with Valori weapon systems that his modified hands could grip and his modified eyes could sight along with disturbing ease. When the ship lurched sideways and the emergency tones began singing through the walls in frequencies that vibrated in his enhanced bones. He grabbed his human rifle in his right hand and a Valori pulse lance in his left and ran. The corridor was already moving, not metaphorically. The living walls of the royal yacht were contracting and expanding, sealing off damaged sections, rerouting air and power the way a body redirects blood around a wound. Cole ran through a ship that was healing itself around him. And it was the strangest thing he had ever experienced in a life that had lately become a museum of strange things. He reached the bridge, which on this ship was called the Nexus. It was a circular room with curved displays rising from the floor like the petals of a flower. The princess was already there, standing at the center, her forearms working different control surfaces with a coordination that made Cole's enhanced reflexes look clumsy. 3 ships, she said without looking at him. War faction, heavy cruiser class. Cole moved to the tactical display. 3 red signatures closing fast, arranged in a formation that his military training identified as a capture pattern, same as the Ironfall. "They want the ship intact," he said. "They want you. They want the contract destroyed and me discredited. My death would be a bonus, but not a requirement." The yacht shuddered, a hit on the port shield array. The living walls around the Nexus contracted and turned a deeper shade. "Your ship has weapons," Cole said. "Ceremonial defense systems. The royal yacht is not a warship. It was never designed to fight a cruiser. How about 3 cruisers?" The princess gave him a look that needed no translation across species. Cole studied the tactical display. The 3 cruiser formation had a weakness. The lead ship was positioned slightly ahead of the flanking 2, creating a cone formation that funneled their combined fire forward. Good for pursuing a target. Vulnerable from above and below. Your ship. Can it dive? Dive. Change vertical orientation. Drop below their formation and come up behind them. The princess's lower arms stopped moving. The upper pair continued working the controls. She was calculating something. The yacht can perform a vertical displacement maneuver, whilst it would stress the hull beyond recommended parameters. "Everything about this week is beyond recommended parameters," Cole said. The princess almost smiled. Almost. She issued commands in rapid Valori. The crew responded, The yacht groaned around them, a sound that was not mechanical but biological, the ship expressing discomfort the way a living thing would. They dove. Cole grabbed a handhold as the floor tilted and the yacht plunged beneath the cruiser formation with a speed that pushed his enhanced body to its limits. The display showed the 3 cruisers passing overhead, their weapons tracking downward but not fast enough. The angle wrong for their forward-focused fire arcs. The yacht came up behind them. "Fire everything," the princess said. The ceremonial defense systems, which turned out to be considerably more powerful than the word ceremonial suggested, lit up the void. Energy beams struck the rear shields of the nearest cruiser. The shields held, but the impact forced the ship forward, disrupting the formation. Cole saw the opening. "Your Highness, one of those cruisers has a damaged shield array on the ventral port quarter. The hit pattern shows an existing weakness. If you concentrate fire there, you can breach the hull. How do you know it is damaged?" His enhanced eyes had caught a flicker in the shield harmonics that normal vision would never have detected. The same modifications that made him glow in the dark made him the best tactical observer in the sector. "I can see it," he said. The princess redirected fire. 3 concentrated bursts into the weak point. The cruiser's shield collapsed in a cascade that spread across the entire port side. The hull beneath was exposed. One more volley, and the cruiser was venting atmosphere from a breach that ran the length of its midsection. It fell out of formation, spinning, its crew scrambling to seal the damage. 2 left. The remaining cruisers adjusted. They knew now that the yacht was not the helpless target they had expected. They spread apart, creating a wider formation that eliminated the vertical weakness Cole had exploited. The yacht rocked. A direct hit on the starboard hull. The walls around the Nexus turned a deep, angry red. "We cannot sustain this," the princess said. "The yacht is tough, but it is not armored for sustained combat." Cole looked at the display. He looked at the 2 cruisers. He looked at the princess. "You have boarding pods," he said. "We have diplomatic shuttles. Same thing with a different name. Can they be launched at high speed?" The princess turned to face him fully. All 4 arms went still. "Cole, if I can get aboard the lead cruiser and reach their engine room, I can shut down their power core. Without engines, they are a target. Your ship finishes them while I disable the other one. That is insane. That is what I was built for." The word "built" landed in the space between them and sat there. The princess's bioluminescence flickered in a pattern Cole had not seen before. His own skin answered it without his permission, a pulse that ran from his chest to his fingertips. "You would die," Anshi said. "Probably not. My bones do not break easily. My skin resists pulse weapon energy at close range, and I am very difficult to kill. The military made sure of that before they classified me." The ship took another hit. The red walls pulsed darker. The princess closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had changed. "Launch Bay 4, she said. "The shuttle is fast. The cruiser's docking port is on the underside. I will create a diversion." Cole moved toward the door. "Cole Brannigan." He stopped. "Come back," she said. He did not answer. He was already running. The shuttle was small and fast and alive. Like everything Valori, it responded to his touch with an eagerness that made his skin glow brighter. The bioluminescence in the controls syncing with the bioluminescence in his hands until he could feel the shuttle the way he felt his own body, an extension of his modified self. He launched into the chaos between ships. The princess had created her diversion, the yacht swinging wide and firing at the second cruiser, while Cole's shuttle dove beneath the lead ship. Pulse fire streaked past him in lines of blue-white light. He rolled the shuttle, dove, climbed, dove again, threading through the defensive fire with reflexes that no unmodified human could have matched. The docking port was ahead. He hit it at speed, the shuttle's nose punching through the exterior seal with a crunch that rattled his teeth. The atmospheric barrier held just long enough for him to leap from the shuttle into the cruiser's maintenance corridor. Alarms everywhere. The corridor was bone-white and sharp-angled, military architecture, nothing like the yacht's living curves. Cole ran, his rifle up, his pulse lance in his offhand. He met resistance at the second junction. 4 Valori soldiers in combat armor, their weapons already raised. Cole fired both weapons simultaneously, the rifle punching tungsten right and the pulse lance cutting left. 2 soldiers dropped. He closed the distance to the third and hit it with his armored shoulder, driving it into the wall hard enough to crack the panels. The 4th swung a blade at his head. Cole ducked, dropped the pulse lance, caught the soldier's lower arm, and twisted. The arm broke. Cole picked up the pulse lance and kept moving. The engine room was 3 levels down. He took the most direct route, which was through the floor. His enhanced strength and his armored boots punched through 2 deck plates that were designed to withstand impacts far greater than a human could deliver, but were not designed to withstand whatever Cole was now. The engine room was vast and humming with energy. The Valori power core sat at the center, a sphere of contained plasma that rotated inside a magnetic cage. 2 engineers looked up when Cole dropped through the ceiling. He did not hurt them. He pointed his rifle at the primary coolant line and fired 3 rounds. The coolant line ruptured. Blue fluid sprayed across the room. The engineers ran. The power core began to destabilize, its rotation wobbling, the magnetic cage fluctuating. Cole opened a comm channel that he had routed through the shuttle's relay. Cruiser 1 is going dark in approximately 90 seconds. On the other end, the princess said one word. Good. The yacht opened fire on the second cruiser. Without its partner, outnumbered in firepower and outmaneuvered by a pilot who knew space the way Cole knew corridors, the second cruiser took 3 hits in rapid succession and broke away. Its engines flared as it turned to run. The lead cruiser's lights died around Cole. The hum of the engines dropped to silence. Emergency lighting kicked in, dim and red. And Cole stood in the quiet of a dead ship and realized that his pulse lance was humming in his hand with a resonance that matched the pulse in his skin. He made his way back to the docking port. His shuttle was damaged but functional. He launched, drifted clear of the dead cruiser, and let the yacht's tractor beam pull him home. When the shuttle bay pressurized and the door opened, the princess was standing there. She was alone. Cole stepped out of the shuttle. His armor was scorched. His rifle was empty. The pulse lance in his left hand was still humming. His helmet was back on the yacht on a shelf in his quarters. The princess looked at his bare face, at the glow in his skin, at the pulse lance that resonated with his biology as if it had been made for his hand, because, in a sense, it had. "You came back," she said. I said probably not. "You said probably not when I said you would die." I said, "Come back." You said nothing. I am not good with words. The princess stepped forward. Her upper right hand reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were warm. The bioluminescence in her skin flared where it met his, a cascade of light that ran from her fingertips through his cheek and down his neck. Cole did not step back. "The military made you to survive in our world," she said. "But I do not think they understood what they were actually making." What were they making? A bridge. Cole stood in the shuttle bay, with an alien princess's hand on his face and the wreckage of a battle drifting outside and a marriage contract sitting in a silver case somewhere on this living ship. He thought about the word bridge. He thought about 4 years in a helmet. He thought about the way her skin answered his. The princess dropped her hand. She straightened. The diplomatic mask returned, but underneath it, in the luminescence that pulsed along her arms, Cole could read something that his training had no manual for. "The war faction will regroup," she said. "They will return with more ships." "I know. The contract must be formalized before they do. Once the marriage is ratified by both governments, attacking us becomes an act of war against a unified alliance. It is the only thing that stops them." Cole looked at her. "Is that the only reason to formalize it?" he said. The princess met his eyes. "Ask me again," she said, "when you are ready for an honest answer." She turned and walked away. The living walls of the ship pulsed around her, golden and warm. And Cole watched her go and felt the glow beneath his own skin answer hers across the growing distance, call and response. 2 frequencies learning the shape of a shared wavelength. He picked up the pulse lance. It fit his hand like it had always been there.